Hello, our lovely Girl Awakening listeners. Welcome to 2023. I'm Jo Hendy from the Sacred Sister Project.
I'm Amanda Parker of Mayala Organics.
Come with us as we journey into this week's Awakening episode.
I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams. She teaches me lessons.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo.
How exciting.
Yeah, happy solstice yesterday and today.
Yeah, wow. That was huge. I forgot about that in the midst of all the other exciting things going on. We have back in the hot seat Kirsten Morrison. Love this girl. I know I was a little bit fangirling last week, but it's all worth it. We got Kirsten back in because we got a lot of feedback. Hey, Amanda.
We did. Yeah. From people wanting to know more about
human design.
Yeah, and because Kirsten had such a clear and powerful way of diving straight in.
Tapping in. Yeah, absolutely.
It connected with a lot of people.
Yeah. So we've got Kirsten back in to explain. She's going to go into more detail about what human design is. Hello, beautiful.
Hello, thank you for having me back.
It's so good.
I think the intention was to touch on human design last time. We just got so immersed in our conversation that 2 hours later we were like, okay, we're going to have to come back for part two.
No, absolutely. And I know that Amanda and I left and we both just said to each other, that's the space that you created was so beautiful. We just wanted to sit in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we felt quite liberated and nurtured for quite a while afterwards, and today we've pulled the card listen.
The message from Dash.
Yes, and we had a special guest because it is Bring Your Dog to Work week. We're going to call it weekday. And Kirsten's brought in her beautiful baby Dash, who's going to supervise us today and make sure we stay in a good Zen space and listen to what's going to come through around human design for you all. Yeah.
So Amanda and I both have our charts, which we have got off Kirsten's website, which we are going to put on the end of this podcast so everybody can see. And she's going to go over it. So this might be one of those podcasts you're going to go back over and back over and back over just to have a better understanding of what human design is. But I'm going to hand it over to you, beautiful.
Yeah, so I think it's best to start with what human design actually is for anyone who doesn't know. So human design is a combination of the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, and quantum physics and astrology. So it's basically this absolute so it's basically this absolute mashup of all of these beautiful ancient practices, but also some modern science as well. Yeah. So I think that's why it's quite resonant for people, because what it actually does is it combines the things that we love about astrology in terms of that personality and that soul path aspect, but it also brings in more understanding of our physical 3D human body. And so how we metabolize stress, how we process our emotions, how our mind works, what we have a relationship with willpower and our worth, and all of these different layers, you know, our digestion, the best environments that support us to thrive. Like, there's so many layers to human design, but I think the way that it supports the body and the spirit is actually really powerful. I think that's why most people are like, get that real resonant energy with it, because there's that aspect where, you know, yes, we want to know about our soul path and our purpose and what we're here for, but we also need to know how to live our day-to-day lives as well.
And that's literally what's been coming up so much, isn't it?
Oh my God, I was just about to say, this is so interesting, because when we have women come in to tell their journey,
to share their
90% of the time they'll say, my body broke down. Or I've had this come up in my body, like to the point of cancer, or, you know, major things happen where they've got to a crisis point.
They get taken out.
They get taken out physically, and then they have an awakening. So that could, human design, you know, is that part of that as well?
So I think that, like, you know, there's definitely, I think, a lot of people that find a lot of resonance in human design to support the body to heal or to optimize that human body aspect, because I think once we know how we actually work best and how we can support ourselves with that, we sort of begin to actually honor what's correct for our bodies, but we can also start to map out some of those things of why those problems might have come in the first place. Like, I know a lot of generators and mani-gens who have ended up in burnout because they've been, you know, not honoring the sacral yes and running on fumes in the sacral no, in that frustration for such a long time that it's had such a wear and tear on the body that they've ended up in like fatigue or adrenal distress and different things like that. So there is actually, I think, definitely room for, you know, the human design to be a real map for supporting yourself in that way as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, even for me, like, I don't have a defined will center, and I've really learned that, you know, what I used to do was like really push through and force myself to, you know, be consistent or show up in a certain way, and, you know, that, you know, stick through things like, you know, made a commitment to do this 30-day live challenge and like all these things where it's like these commitments that actually are incorrect for me. So I think taking myself off the hook with those things has really had such an adjustment period for me, you know, as a manifester, you know, operating on surges and rest. Like now I actually give myself those rest periods that I didn't before. So I think you definitely change your relationship with your body through human design for sure.
And not fighting what you know, intrinsically you kind of have a gut feeling about, but your mind's telling you, no, this is what I should be doing.
Yeah.
So you do what you should be doing over your own knowing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And just for our listeners, when you hear Kirsten talk about manifestor, generator, projector, or Manny or whatever, we're going to go over a little bit of that through Amanda. And Amanda and I have our charts in front of us. So you'll get a better understanding of what that means and how, like, how do people know what they are? How can they...
Yeah. So basically it's based off your birth time, date and place. So it's like astrology in that way, where it is actually fixed. It's not a personality test. The answers aren't based on, you know, your conditioning or your mood that day or anything like that. This is a definitive map of your soul blueprint, and it's essentially, like, I call it the user manual for your human experience.
Oh, wow.
There's, you know, so it really is, like, I think we all need this from birth, because it really does give us such a clear guideline to how we operate at our best. And I think one of the things with human design as well is that a lot of people, I think their resistance, if they do experience that, is like, well, I don't want to label myself. I don't want to put myself in a box. Yeah. And I think the thing with human design is it's actually not meant to be constricting or rigid. It's not like, this is who you are and that's the end of the story and you can't do anything else. It's actually this really beautiful permission slip to do what is already true for you. And I think it's not like you don't have to do anything different. It actually gives you permission to do what already felt natural that you've actually been ignoring or denying. So it really just gives you it gives you this kind of like feeling of like, oh my God, I can just do that thing that I really want to do, or oh my God, that's why I do that. I can actually honor that. So it's not actually like, well, now you have to completely change yourself and fit into this box. It's actually just giving you permission to be more of yourself.
Oh, I love that.
And we're just so trying to get out of the box. So like to have that we're talking about that. So funny how it comes up again. But like some of the different and it's so amazing how all these different you know, sciences, ancient practices all come together to create this in-depth layering, because so many modalities look at, like I practice astrology, and there's different fields in that, like medical astrology, you know, all different types of way you can look at it, but usually people specialize in different areas, what their calling is. So you're not usually getting kind of a broad overview. Or bushflower essences, for example, the Australian bushflower essences, their whole premises is alignment of the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies to be in resonance, and you know, and so as a vibrational medicine, so you really get the powerful tool that this is, to have that permission slip, as you're saying, just that permission slip. That word just feels those two words
relieving. We were talking about this because anyone that's really listening, I mean, most people that are listening to this podcast are on the journey. You know, they're wanting something more. And I think part of this journey that we've all been going through is that relief in knowing that we don't have to be that person that we thought we were. Or dropping our identity, you know, or letting ourselves off the hook, or, you know, stop self-sabotaging, or all these areas that we've been thinking that we're locked into. And it's like a feeling, you know, that we're all getting of relief.
And I think the beautiful part about, human design as well, when we are doing the inner work and we are on that journey, is I think it actually changes the relationship to the work, because we have an overall what's called not self and signature theme in our design. So all of what's known as the energy types, that's the first layer that we break down to when we look at our human design. It's the first part that we branch off into what's known as differentiation. So human design is known as the science of differentiation. So it speaks into actually how we are individual and unique.
Wow.
So the energy type is the first layer to that, and we split off into 5 categories or 5 energy types. And
so if I was looking at my chart now.
Yeah, energy type is what you're looking for. Manifesting generator for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Energy types.
Yeah.
Staring me in the face. I can't see it.
So that's our first layer, but there
Right.
is what's known as a not self and a signature attached to that, which is telling us whether we are in or out of alignment.
Mine's
using
frustration.
yeah. And so yours is bitterness.
But when you were talking, when I was listening to your video on your website,
Yeah.
it also said you might feel it as resentment, and I really resonated with that, because when I'm in a box, I get resentful.
Yeah.
I get frustrated.
Yeah. And so I'm a manifestor. Mine is anger.
Okay. Wow.
And so then the other energy type is the reflector, and theirs is disappointment. So we've got anger, frustration, bitterness, and disappointment.
Oh, because there's only those 4.
Well, because generators and manifesting generators have the same strategy, not self and signature. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a second.
Yeah.
But basically, this not self and this signature is how we know whether we're honoring our design or not. So it's like these 2 emotional signposts to know essentially whether we're in or out of alignment.
So would this be, Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body. So would this be like the pain body, and then in our true essence, kind of thing?
Basically, yeah.
Or like energy field, and then in our true self.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it's like the soul giving our body a little tap on the shoulder, saying hey, you're not honoring yourself.
You're off track.
Yeah, you're not doing what's right for you.
Okay.
And then we have a signature. So then that's satisfaction, peace, success, and surprise.
Okay.
So there's these really beautiful signature states that we are here to live in when we honor our design.
Wow.
And so that's really the first little layer. But in the chart as well, when you look at all of those little energy centers in your body graph, each of them have a not self and a signature. As well. So, there is a not self, and there's like a higher vibrational, reach with that as well. So basically with those, we can have a look at the not self, and we can know when we're operating from our conditioning and when our mind has taken the steering wheel. And so the reason that I say that it changes the relationship with the work is because now, sometimes when I will catch myself in like a not self emotion or a not self, aspect of those energy centers, I can really, what I call is the catch and release program, where I have this moment where I catch myself in the not self, the specific not self, and then I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. What's happening here that's causing the not self?
Yes.
Is there anything that I need to adjust? And what do I need to give myself in this moment so that I can either move back into my signature or come back into the high vibrational or the highest aspects of those energy centers?
That's powerful. That's that's true.
That stop sign in the brain.
But that's also power, power to be able to catch that in that moment without letting it take you out, that awareness.
But I think also the reason that they say that it changes it too is because it's in the languaging. It's the not self. Yeah. It's not actually us. It's just something where we're operating from conditioning that's out of alignment with what's actually true for us, or it's part of what we're here to learn. And so anywhere that we're open with those white centers in our chart, that's actually where we're here to learn and grow. So, this is where, we can have compassion for ourselves and be like, okay, this is my course load. This is what I'm here to learn. So what am I learning here? And it's like, it takes away some of that self-judgment and just allows such a softer approach to the journey of that self-evolution that we all go on. But it just changes that dynamic for ourselves, because I think we can be a little bit more easy on ourselves
Kinder.
and a little bit more kinder to that, and recognize that it's, not something bad. It's not something we need to fix. It's not broken.
Yeah.
It's just part of what we're here to learn, and it's part of what we have in terms of our conditioning. And we have a choice to choose to step back into those higher vibrational aspects of our design again.
Yeah.
So it's literally just one catch and choice away.
Yeah.
One catch and choice.
And I love how you say conditioning, because I'm just listening to you thinking, wow, I teach something similar in my work with young girls, and it's called the mean girl and goddess.
Yeah.
Right? And the mean girl is the part of us that we need to start to observe and not believe that it's us. And just when you say not self, it's like, oh my God, that's the mean girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually the mean girl is all the parts that have come from outside of us. So when parents who so lovingly try their best but can say things like, you're too slow, or blah 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 blah, and we start to make decisions. Little hurts get transformed.
Totally.
So the conditioning for as an adult looking at our design is like all the parts of us that we've taken on from the outside.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, potentially not in alignment with who we came here to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of with, human design, it's like actually just giving ourselves permission to know what's true for us, so that we can let go of all the parts that aren't.
Yeah. Look, I'm loving.
Oh, it's exciting. And I was
So
reading
beautiful.
something this week, I think I shared it with you, Jo, Elizabeth Peru.
Yes.
She shared something that really resonated, and it was around connecting in with the meaning of self-love. And to really experience self-love was to actually take on self-responsibility. And the way she phrased it was literally what you're saying about the catch
and release.
Yeah, because the things that we were not taking responsibility for in ourselves are the frame of mind that we're in.
Yeah.
But not being aware around that. And
Or not wanting, sometimes not
creating
wanting to be aware.
negativity
Having
in
awareness
ourselves.
but going, can't be
exactly.
bothered
I
right
just
now.
I just want to be bitchy today. I just want to be grumpy today. I just want to...
There's no time for that now. I'm finding in the times we're
No
living
time.
in now, if we don't take that self-responsibility in that moment, it's going to come back and whack us in the ass, more than ever before.
So much quicker.
So much quicker.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so interesting.
So probably the best thing to, I guess, explain first is the energy types. Like I said, that's our first little branch off into that differentiation.
So this is the manifestor, generator, projector.
So we've got the manifestor, the generator, the manifesting generator, the projector, and the reflector.
Okay.
And so they're what's known as our energy types, and it actually speaks to how our aura operates and how we're here to exchange energy with the world around us. So I call it like our little energetic vehicle. This is the car that we're driving around in. In this lifetime, and it's how we're here to make our impact, and it's basically this first little layer of our superpowers that we all have. And so normally when I do my readings, this part's about half an hour in the videos that you guys get, so I'm going to condense it down. I'm still getting better at not like being like, okay, I got an hour, let's like explain this. But basically, with the manifestor, we have what's known as a closed and repelling aura. And so manifestors are here to be, I know it sounds really bad, but it has a purpose. It has a purpose. So I'm a manifestor, and so we are here to be the initiators, and our aura really has this kind of catalyzing, sparking impact on the environment around us. So we're really this beautiful like spark, flamethrower, kickstarter. Like that's kind of how our energy is here to work, is to really like,
well, that's true.
Get things moving and start that energy moving around us. And so basically how our energy works is we work in big surges followed by deep periods of rest. And so in the surges, that's where our energy, it's basically like we've decided like, oh, okay, I want to do this, I want to create this. And essentially from that point, like that energy really builds within us, and our aura actually moves outwards. And so our energy type as a manifestor, we're the only type where our energy moves outwards like that. And so the reason it does that is because it's here to move any resistance out of our path so we can get to A to B of what we want to create. Wow. Or actually like touch other people's energy. So, if I, initiate something like, say, for example, I launch a program, basically my energy is going to like go like a little asteroid, like catalyze outwards. And some people are going to feel that and be like, not for me. Bye. I'll move out of the way. You go.
Is that the repelling part?
And so, but other people are going to be like, whoa, I feel moved. I want to be a part of this. Like, how do I join?
Yes.
And so all of us have a strategy to use our energy correctly. And so for the manifestor, it's to inform.
Yeah.
So our strategy is actually the only strategy that's technically artificial. We actually don't need to inform. We can do whatever we like without permission.
Yeah.
But the reason we need to inform is to actually give the other energy types a heads up of what we're doing, or anyone around us what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, that aura is going to fling outwards. It's going to be like hitting people there, and we're off. We're like 100 miles down the road. They're like, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? Why didn't you tell me you were doing that? Like, are you sure you're going to do that? What's happening? And so it's like
so much sense.
Is this a bit of self-responsibility coming in now?
So basically, as a manifestor, we just need to give people a heads up of what we're doing, what our energy's doing, whatever we're creating. We're just giving people a heads up.
Yeah.
And so this is the biggest shift for the manifestor at the start, is because, a lot of the times our conditioning is that we were actually told no, or met with a lot of resistance growing up. So we stopped informing, and we started asking. So we were asking for permission. Do you think this is a good idea? What should I do about this? Is this something you guys would like if I did it? And so I actually noticed the biggest shift in my business and the success of my business when I stopped asking and started informing.
Because you're giving your power away.
Yes. So,
by asking.
But also our energy is here to inform and initiate. So when we're asking, and just like as an example, like what I used to do is like I would say like, hey guys, like, I'm thinking of creating this program. If I did that, would you guys be interested in something like that? Crickets. Whereas like if I'm like, I've created this. This is why it's going to be great. This is how you can be a part of it.
Different.
People
start putting their hand
up.
Totally. Or if I'm like, who do you want to see on the podcast, or what theme would you guys want on the podcast? It's like people are like, they're not being initiated by me, so it falls flat. So it's like almost like a repelling effect. So my whole business was set up on permission energy. I was doing market research. What do you guys want? Asking my clients, what would you like me to create? Would you like it 6 weeks? Would you like 8 weeks? Like, what do you want? And so I was actually almost like putting myself in a position to respond, which is perfect for some other energy types to get that feedback to create from. But for a manifestor, like our biggest power is actually trusting how we want to create it, in the way that we want to create it, even if we haven't seen it done anywhere before, because we're quite often going to be charging off into fields and lighting that spark to kind of set the tone to create something new. That's kind of our little like superpower.
In the room.
So all you manifestors out there, stop asking.
So we're really just giving so we're really just giving people a heads up, and that also came into a huge shift for me in my relationships as well, because I had really taught people that I needed high level support and feedback. And so when I didn't want that anymore, that was a really big adjustment for the people in my life, when I'm like, no, I'm not asking for your input. I'm just telling you this is what I'm doing now.
How powerful. Wow. There must be so many manifestors out there. Seriously, because
there's 9%. So we're actually 9%. Like one of the smaller. Like, really? We're the second rarest type.
Wow.
But probably because there is that outgoing energy, it feels like there's more. Is that why?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there's so many. This is why I've kind of stopped guessing people's energy types now too, because there's so many other aspects when we go into the intricacies of the chart that can mirror different energies, like I'm describing. So some people, if they're listening to this today and they haven't got their chart and they don't know, they're probably like, I resonate to that and I resonate to that and I resonate. So there's always going to be like human parts that I think we resonate to, but it's like not necessarily your strategy or like how you're here to execute your energy. There might be something else in your chart that's speaking to that. So because it's so multi-layered.
Culturally too, because like I think of like American people are so like I used to think, and it was only my thoughts were only because what I've heard other people say. Oh, they're so arrogant, blah 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 blah. And now I go, no, they're not. They just know what they want. And they back each other. And they're all rah rah, but they're backing their mates and their.
I mean, I spent 3 months in LA alone. On just one trip. So I've spent a lot of time in America, but that trip alone, like I spoke about last time, like one of the things I really got from that was just seeing everybody in such big champions of their dreams and so outspoken about what they were going to do, what they were going to create, who they were linking up with, like, what their vision was. And, there was no, like how we have culturally here where it's still that tall poppy syndrome that still creeps in everywhere, where it's like that.
You're a big head. And
like more of the like humility, which is great. But it's also, I think, like sometimes at our detriment, where we're not actually like
fully
owning
backing.
and backing ourselves because there's that kind of, oh no,
fear
like
of
that
being torn down.
Well, it's also like, you know, that mateship, right? It's like, oh, you need to be better than your mate. Like, it's
Oh,
like that's kind of like ingrained in our culture, I think, too. And it's like not about that at all. It's not about being better. It's just about what is actually your dreams yourself. And I think, you know, sadly, I think that's why, you know, so many people, you know, that I know like left Australia or like left, especially like Brisbane at the time, like 10 years ago, it was like, if you wanted a successful career, you got to leave. Like, so I'm glad that at least that has changed and we've like, you know, really, I think like come a long way in a short time, but we've still got some ways to go. So that's really the manifester. And so our signature, like I said, is peace, and our not self is anger. So we experience anger when we get that resistance, we get told what to do, we're not informing, and we experience the peace when we kind of have that room to just be, do, create at the speed and however we like. So I notice little things like, for example, how I've really noticed that come into play is like, and I actually had a call with a manifestor last night as a coaching session, and we were talking about this, and she was like, how do you know, you know, say for example, like when you're, you know, in your surge and in your rest period, like how do you know when it's time to rest? And I was like, because I start getting angry. And it's like that, and that irritation starts to creep in of like, oh God, like I just need to like pull back, like I need some space, I need some time to rest. And as soon as I give myself permission to do that, it's like the peace just like drops straight in. And so like even like little things about how I kind of structure my business is like, you know, a couple of, you know, months ago I was with little Dash here at the park on a Friday afternoon, which was rare because I normally have clients up until about 5 p.m. on a Friday. And I was like, oh, I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And I was like, I think this is actually really important for me to have this Friday space for myself. So I changed my hours to finish at 2 so I could have what I now call Peace Fridays, where I like just have those few hours to myself. That's all about cultivating peace in whatever that feels like to me.
And lead
at
into
that
the
point.
weekend in a peaceful space as opposed to that like frazzled kind of.
It's so important, isn't it?
So they're like really two big indicators, I think, you know, and sometimes when I'm experiencing that anger, I'm like, oh, okay, like where have I not informed in this situation? And so sometimes it will be like if I get unsolicited feedback, I'm like, oh, I actually haven't had a discussion with this person about how I would actually like to share, and that I'm actually just giving a heads up on what I actually need in this exchange, or I, you know, haven't informed that I need some space to rest, or I, you know, haven't informed that I need a day to create. It's like, so I'll notice those little irritants and be like, oh, okay, where have I not informed here? And sometimes it's even just like informing with myself where it's like, oh, actually I need to just accept that I needed 2 days, like, you know, just to like be, and like I'll just block out my calendar and then it'll immediately flick to about peace. So
it's about covering all bases, isn't it? Like that's back to that self-responsibility. It's like I need to inform, I need to, you know, stick with it, I need to this,
take
and
action
then
on
take
the
action
things.
that need to be covered.
And it's just like what is actually causing, stuck in my jacket. It's like what is actually causing the not self. And so that's like, it's like when you get that little tap from that emotion, it's like, oh, what's the cause of this and what needs to change as a result? And quite often it's that we haven't honored our strategy.
Wow.
Okay,
so what? Maybe we need to go into that.
So manifesting generators and generators actually have the same strategy, not self, and signature. Basically, you have the same auric structure, which is open and enveloping. And what sets you guys apart from the rest of the energy types is that little defined sacral in the middle of the belly. On your chart there, just one below. So that's the sacral center. So generators and manifesting generators have that defined. And the sacral center is actually the biggest energy motor in the human design system, and it's the home of life force vital energy. So you guys are sacred custodians of life force energy. And so the misconception, I think, with the generators and mani-gens is that you guys are some sort of like energizer bunnies. You've got endless amount of energies for all things, this 24-hour reset button. And it's like, even though you do, you actually get the full capacity of that energy motor when you're applying your energy to something that you love. So that's actually, for generators and manifesting generators, that is actually your life's purpose, is to do what you love, essentially. What a great path, eh?
I feel like I've found it. I'm hearing you, because I can be a little tired, sometimes even feel a little bit sick. But if I'm going into work and working with these young girls, I literally am buzzing.
So basically,
for days.
So the reason why is because that sacral motor, when you're applying your energy to the things that you love, it becomes like, exactly like I said, a generator. It's like it literally starts, that motor starts like revving with that beautiful satisfaction energy.
Wow.
And so that is actually going like, yeah. And it's like spilling up into your body. And then it actually spills out into your auric field.
Okay.
And so that's why you have an open and enveloping aura. You're essentially like, from the seed of your satisfaction, what's bringing you joy, you're actually like throwing that energy like out around us and kind of like scooping us up in this big warm hug, right? It's like, it's essentially saying like, this is really exciting. Get in here and be a part of it. Like, I want you in here. It's like this like really inclusive kind of energy from that joy. So when you're doing what you love, that's actually how you benefit the other, is like actually honoring that first. Because when you're doing that, we actually experience that and we can feel that and we want to be a part of what's bringing you satisfaction. And so that energy is like contagious, right? It like really does like fill the space with that beautiful life force energy. And so really the reason that you're here to do what you love is because if you're contributing your life force energy to something that is going to have that ripple effect, you get to experience satisfaction in return. You know, you're not a power outlet. We don't just get to plug into you whenever and wherever to use your energy. You are here to apply that energy, what brings you satisfaction. Wow. And so really like when you, like how your strategy is to respond. And so how that works is that you have this, you know, little inbuilt guidance system in your body that gives you a sign, whether it's, I call a sacral green light or a sacral red light. And so the green light is this little... you know, feeling in your body that's like that, ooh. And then it's like you want to actually, I forgot. It's like you want to actually, like, you have that like, oh, that's exciting. Like that's, you know, I want to lean into that. And so that's the sacral giving you a green light saying we want to contribute our energy here. And that's what's going to lead to satisfaction. When you get that body response that's like the, if I have to, I don't really want to. It's like that kind of sinking, contracting feeling. That's the sacral giving you a red light saying we don't have energy for this. We don't want to apply our life force energy here. And so if you do go, well, I feel obligated, I'm just going to do it anyway. Most of the time. I'm just going to do it anyway. That's going to lead to frustration because your sacral has already said we don't have energy for this. And so the difference in your body then is like how you're talking about, you're lit up for days from applying your energy to the thing that was, I want to do this. And so that actually has like a regenerative effect on your body. It's like having a full tank of fuel, right? Whereas if you're, you know, going, okay, fine, I'll do it, and you're moving down into that and you're feeling frustrated, that actually has a wear and tear on the body that then is like running on fumes. And this is why I see so many generators and manigens in burnout is because they're so often doing the things that are, okay, fine, if I have to, if it's so boring. And then it's like, you know, because you've got that big energy motor, you can draw for a long time on those fumes. You can drive a long time on empty, but eventually it'll catch up with you. So what I always recommend for generators and manifesting generators is to do what I call a sacral stock take, which is where you go through what in your life is giving you frustration. And so what do you need to, big list. What do you need to outsource, delegate, refine? Does it need to be deleted entirely? Does something need to be changed about it? And so just making the tweaks with those frustrations so that you can come back more into your satisfaction. And then also, what is giving you satisfaction? How can you create more space to do that? And quite often I will say to generators and manigens, like, what are you doing that's just for yourself for fun? And so many of them say nothing. And so, like, you know, that's something that I also encourage, is because the more that you spend time in your satisfaction, the more that sacral energy is, you know, really magnetizing and actually drawing life to you, opportunities, clients, people, you know, learnings, teachings, whatever that might be. You're pulling life toward you and giving yourself more things to respond to. So the difference between the generator and manigen is, like I said, you've both got that sacral center, but the manifesting generator also has an energy motor that is connected through what's called a channel, so one of those lines up to the throat. So basically that gives you yes, that ability to respond, and you've got that sacral juice driving you as well. But then once you have that response, because you've got an energy motor that connects to the throat, you can then basically put the foot on the gas and bring things to life really quickly, because you've got that direct energy to creation manifestation point.
Wow.
So yeah,
So I've got nothing going on up in my head.
that's your head. Yeah. we'll get to that after. But underneath the head is the throat, right? So you can see there's like a solid line that connects it down into your sacral center, like below.
Yeah.
So there's that beautiful black sort of line that connects them down there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking down here.
Yeah.
So around there.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So we've got a little
Yeah. So there's a little energy motor that connects to the
Okay.
throat. Yeah. So basically the difference in the energy, typically, and again, we're kind of generalizing with the types, there's lots that goes on in the chart that can speak to different things.
Yeah.
But in this kind of general sense, the generator, because they've got that sustained, sacral motor, a lot of the times they have more of a, marathon runner energy, where it's like they kind of find this thing that brings them satisfaction. And quite often they develop mastery over time because of that kind of marathon runner energy. So they've got that sustained focus.
Yes.
So I always say they have like their biggest gift is mastery, like to share their mastery with enthusiasm.
Okay.
Whereas for the Manigents, because you've got that kind of push-pull like dynamic where you've got a bit of the marathon runner, but you've also got the sprinter. Once you get that response, you're off. And then all of a sudden it's like the speed changes, because you're a hybrid of the manifestor and the generator.
I'm a hybrid.
Yeah. And so I call you guys the cosmic hummingbirds, is because you essentially have this essence of the hummingbird, where it's like you actually are a little bit more multi-passionate, multi-interested.
Yeah,
You'll dabble in a little bit of this, dabble in a little bit of that, dabble in a little bit of this. And your gift is actually to then cross-pollinate through all these little things that you dabble in. You quite often then share innovation with mastery, because you've kind of pulled all these threads together of all of your little multi-passionate interests.
I feel like I'm
and
only
then
doing
injected
that. I'm only realizing that part of me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I haven't realized that all my life.
And I think, there's a lot of, again, the conditioning, right? Is like, and, a lot of generators I speak to is like the conditioning is like, well, I've been taught that you just have to work hard and you can't actually be paid for what you love.
Yeah.
And then also for the manifesting generators, it's like we're told we have to see something all the way through and stick with one thing.
Wow.
And so then you deny that multi-passionate, multi-interested kind of self.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's sort of like how those two, work a little bit differently. And, the generator is a little bit more like the woodpecker, the manifesting generator is the hummingbird.
Wow.
And so there's kind of that just slight difference in the energy that is that frequency, but both of you are really here to bring that beautiful joy in what you do. And we all experience the benefit of that too. And so your little signature to know whether you're in and out of alignment is that frustration for both of you. So anytime you're feeling frustrated, quite often it's probably come from a mental should rather than a body response. And so when you actually follow the woo from the body, that's going to lead to that beautiful signature of satisfaction. So you're here to feel satisfied by what you do and love what you do.
It makes so much sense. And even in the physical sense, like when you're talking about the sacral energy too, you can see how so many people in the physical aspect of that would end up with menstrual problems or menopausal issues because of the sacral frustration, liver going on, prostate for men, all those kind of things. Like so much in that pelvic area would become dysfunctional or affected by that energy being blocked.
And a lot of, and so some of the, the prostate and things like that are connected to the root center, but the sacral center is like kind of like the fertility, the reproduction, the sexual energy, like so all of that can be impacted by the sacral for sure.
Amazing.
So Amanda's a projector.
Well, do you want to do that next?
Yes,
we
can. We'll do the projector next.
So
She has bitterness.
Resentment.
I fucking do not.
I've never seen it, but let's talk about it.
So this is where I find word association in human design so interesting, because as soon as people hear they're a projector, or even I've had other people say, oh yeah, my friend's a projector and she just projects stuff. Is that right? And it's like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had so many beautiful projectors when they find out that that's their energy type. They're like, oh my God, so what does that mean? I just project my stuff onto people? And I'm like,
Wait,
no.
isn't it funny how they just go to the negative? I would think of that, thinking of Amanda as being the projector, as she shines light on other people.
Yeah. And that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just so fascinating though, because, you know, we have these like immediate word associations with different things in human design. And there's a lot of like crazy language in human design where people are like, oh my God, what does that mean? You know, it's like there's so much like resistance to things, and you've got to like then go through what it actually means, which quite often like has very little to do with the actual word on the paper. So, you know, and even like, you know,
reframing, isn't
totally,
it? Again, it's what we've been conditioned to accept around language.
Yeah. And on that note as well, like a lot of people are like, you know, with even like, they're like, oh, I want to be the manifester. Like, I want to be good at manifesting. I'm like, everyone can manifest. That's actually got nothing to do with.
I
like,
want to be.
You know, So it's like, there's quite often this like, oh, I wish I was this other type, or I was that the right type. You know, even say, for example, because the generators, the manifesting generators, you guys make up 70% of the population in total.
Yeah.
But there's sometimes a little bit of resistance there, like, oh, I want to be more of the rare. There's like so much like resistance there. So what I would say is that before we even go into the projector is there's no superior energy type. You know, there's no one that's better than the other. It's just about understanding how do I work best, and we all have a beautiful place to contribute our gifts.
Isn't it funny how isn't it funny as human we want to be better?
Yeah.
So I want to be better than her. I want to be better than that. You know, give me the best one.
Yeah. And if you look at even the diagram, which is
totally
incredibly beautiful to
guys,
look at, they're all so different.
Yeah.
But if you look at this as the micro, what I just listening to you then, like this is me.
Yeah.
If you look at that, say as a the macro, like the universal concept, everything fits together, everything's connected. So like we all the energy types fit in together in the way we are meant to unify.
Yeah, and the thing is like once you actually move past the energy type, we're all as unique as our fingerprint. So there's no like one type of generator or like one type of manifestor or one type of projector. It's like once you go into the charts, like we're all so diverse. So it's
there's layers. There's
that's just
layers.
one of many layers. So we're all special.
Absolutely.
That's good.
I feel so much better now.
So with the projector, essentially how your aura operates is again very differently to the other energy types. You have what's known as a deep and penetrating or a deep and focused aura. So your aura actually, so your aura actually goes into the other, and that could be a person, that could be a task, it could be a project, it could be a modality. So your aura really like pierces into the thing in front of you, and you have this like little blurring quality that happens in your aura where you almost get a little taste, a little sample of what's in front of you. And so because of that, you have a completely unique perspective than all the other types. So if we're all on a hike, you're the eagle above the field or the drone, you can see clearly what is the most optimized path for us to take, the blockages that might come up ahead, where to, where to turn left, where the bathroom is, like where the creek is, where we can get water. So basically one of the biggest gifts of the projector is that because you've got this real visionary capacity, you've got the ability to really optimize, refine, improve, enhance, whether that be a system, a process, or even other people's talents and gifts, because you can really see things so clearly. And that's really your biggest gifts, is your ability to see. And so once you actually come into the chart, the projectors actually have the widest variety of what that looks like. So there's so many different types of projectors as well. And so some will have, energy motors defined. So they've got a little bit more of their own internal energy sources. Some don't have any energy motors. So there's so many different things that can happen with that. But one of the things with the projectors is because of that deep and focused aura, you've got such a like dialed in focus capacity, and this is why it's like sometimes you might find that like 4 or 5 hours of output might be enough, and you might get as much done in that time as I get done in like 10 hours. So it's like you actually then start to give yourself permission to actually honor the energy you have available to you and work in your natural flow, rather than try and hold yourself hostage to the 9 to 5 sort of system. And even if you are in the 9 to 5 system, it's like, okay, maybe if you have flexibility, it's like I schedule my meetings in the morning, I do my admin in the afternoon. It's like finding what works for you to make the most of that dialed in and focused energy. But basically how I kind of describe your aura is like a light. So that's what I have my little archetypes for all the energy types, and I call the projector the light, because that's really how your energy really works. It's like this beautiful lighthouse. So you're the guide, and essentially your strategy is to wait for the invitation, but I actually prefer to say to allow yourself to be recognized, because you have such a unique point of view and you've got this beautiful piercing aura. And I can almost tell a projector, like that's one of the ones I can guess quite often, because you guys have this like real presence. That's like this, like there's just this, like there's something in there. Yeah, there's something in the eyes where it's like you're like, oh my god, and like sometimes it's like, oh, like I'm seen, there's nowhere to hide, like, and so some people aren't ready to be seen. They're not ready to be in the light. They're not ready to be in the spotlight. And an example of this would be, you know, sometimes, you know, we've all had those times where we've had, you know, relationships where they haven't been working and someone's been like, I don't think this is right for you. And you're like, oh my God, you don't know them like I do. And you like go on the defense, right? And so this is why the projector strategy is to wait for the invitation or allow yourself to be recognized. Because you've got this like clarity, and I always jokingly say to projectors, especially if I'm doing it in groups, I say, you know, how many times have you thought to yourself, oh, I could have told you that? Oh, yeah. And like they're all like, me every day, like yes. And so because you've got this clarity, right, and you've got so many beautiful like your own natural skill sets, the things that you do really well to kind of back that up, if you're offering that perspective and getting that rejection and people are not openly receiving the light, then that's going to feel like you're not self of bitterness. It's like, well, I was just trying to help. Like, or, you know, if you're like, you know, say for example, if you're a projector in business and you're like cold DMing or pitching yourself and you're getting those knockbacks, and it's going to be like, well, why? Like, I'm so good. It's like, so it's like going to like trigger off that bitterness. So how you're actually here to operate in your own beautiful signature, which is success, that is your birthright, is to actually just honor yourself as the light and allow people to step into it. So it's flipping that. And that's why I say allow yourself to be recognized. 'Cause I think a lot of people get confused with the waiting for the invitation. They're like, so what, I just have to sit at home and not do anything? And like, you know, some people are like, oh, okay, so if I want to create a podcast, I just wait for my audience to tell me that. It's like, no, like you can like create anything you want. But the way that you're positioning yourself in the world is like, you know, and honor your unique skill set, and you're essentially having this beautiful light that you're shining, and you're like, this is what I know, this is how I can help, this is my area of expertise, this is how I can guide you. If you would like to journey with me, step on in, this is how you can do that. And it's like giving that, you know, invitation, that welcoming energy for people to step into your light. And the thing is with that is, I think, you know, a lot of that fear is like, well, what if I don't get any invitations, or what if people don't want to do that? And your aura is literally communicating to us, invite me. So the key thing for the projector in terms of their success is to be visible in what they do well. So say for example, like you obviously have this beautiful podcast and you're visible on your platforms in what you do well. And, you know, even if you have like a personal account, you would be, you know, showing up and saying, well, this is, you know, how I work with astrology, this is how I work with this. And so when people see you in that skill set, they're like, oh, the people who are ready to step in the light are like, oh, okay, how do I do that? Tell me how I can work with you. And so as soon as we can see that, the people who are ready are going to step in, and that's going to feel so much better for you in terms of that reciprocity. Because rather than you trying to convince people, like my perspective is as valuable as liquid gold. That's my mantra for the projectors. But it's like, but rather than trying to convince people of the worth of the gold, you're saying it's fucking gold, mate. You wish you had a piece of this perspective. So it's like it's like holding the power of your light and shining it into the world, and knowing that the right people will step into it and recognize you in that exchange. Because that's also really important. If you guys are 24% of the population, you see things already so clearly, so differently, you can have this beautiful like optimization, refinement, improvement, you know, talent, like whatever. And then you've also got your skill set behind that. It's like, we actually need to recognize you and say, hey, I would love to have a bit of this magic that you've got going on. How can I exchange with you? And so the thing for the projectors is getting clear on the type of invitations they want to attract, but also getting clear on how they want to be invited into them. Because say, for example, if I just turned around and said, hey, I have a podcast, I'm going to do an episode, I need a projector, can you just come on next week? You'd be like, okay, like, cool, like, is that the only, like, just a projector. Like I'm a bit more than a projector. And so it's like, but if I was like, oh my God, like I love the way that you do your work. I think it'd be so valuable. And I was like really like actually honoring you and the work that you did and you and the human, you would be like, yeah, I'd love to come and share my unique perspective. Yeah. And so there has to be that pure line of fuel. And this is also where bitterness can creep in for the projectors, is where that line goes a bit sour. So you might be in a contract or a job or an agreement where you were feeling really recognized and valued at the start for that, and then suddenly you're like, actually I don't feel like this is honoring me anymore. And so that's where a conversation needs to take place, because that's going to pull you back into that beautiful space of success or contentment or fulfillment, rather than that bitterness. But the other thing is like really that self-acknowledgement in the process of getting those invitations or that recognition as well is really, really, really important to stay in that beautiful signature of success.
And you can really feel how things like self-worth and value flow into that space as well, isn't it? Like around the bitterness or resentment, if that not self, how those unkind relationships to self can also undermine that flow or that liquid gold. Yeah. Create quite a struggle or self-sabotage.
So interesting.
It's wild. And
so wild.
And I just listening to you I just feel like I'm downloading so much, but when I realised I was a projector, two things, like the projector, like again hearing you talk around the misconception around words, instead of projector as in projecting blame or stuff on other people, the projector of like a video projector onto a wall, like a video screen, the vision that you're sharing that way, like that just came to mind.
And for anyone who's old enough to remember this, it's like, I remember if you remember at school how they used to have the old school projectors, how you'd slide that piece of Laminex over the top, right? And so this is also how I think of the projector. It's like you are the light in there, but your beautiful skill set that you have, your natural genius is that little piece of Laminex, right? And so you're shining your beautiful skill set out with that light as well, and allowing people to benefit from that.
It's beautiful.
So beautiful.
And and just it's kind of like feels like I was explaining also to Kirsten that my father's grandfather was born in a lighthouse, and it's always kind of been something in our family that has had a little bit of a resonancy, and that's kind of again that concept of shining your light out for others to see.
Totally. I just think that's so profound and wild, like such a beautiful story.
So is there another?
Yes.
Okay.
So the last one is the reflector, and they are only 1% of the population.
I didn't even know that. I was trying to work it out. I'm like, I know there's another one.
Yeah. So they are the cosmic unicorns. They're the rare ones.
Cosmic unicorns.
And in my whole time doing readings, I've actually had a reading for 3.
Wow.
And I've met now 6.
Wow. And are they different?
Yeah.
I know it sounds
what do they look like?
No,
do they look like unicorns?
Is it what's so?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I was actually at my friend's hen's party last weekend, and my friend Christy is a reflector. Yeah. And so we were telling this other beautiful woman, Kat, at the party about, human design, and, I was like, oh, Christy's, the unicorn, like crazy to even like find her. Blah, blah. Yeah. And so anyway, then Christy was telling her about reflector, and she was like, talking about her experience with that, and we were telling her about human design. I was like, oh, like how about we pull your chart, like, so we can know what you are. Another reflector. I was like, I was like, I know, but it was so funny because like, the other beautiful woman was like to Christy, oh my God, so you're the real, what's that? And, and then it was like, I was not, it was so interesting, but I was just like, what are the fucking chances? There's only like 12 of us at the party. I'm like, 2 reflectors in one house. So yeah, it was crazy. And even when I told someone else that I know he knows human design, they're like, oh my God, I'm both at the party. Like, it's like, so it is very like rare, and some people have like never read for reflectors, never met reflectors, so yeah, it is definitely a lot more rare. And so what sets them apart from the rest of us is like how when you guys look at your chart, you've got some coloured in squares and shapes and some that are white and open. Yeah. When a reflector pulls up their chart, all white. They've got no definition at all.
Wow.
And so basically what that gives them is, because in our open centers we're actually energy receptors, and in our definition we're energy transmitters. So they are this beautiful energy receptor. So they have this incredible skill of knowing and tuning into the health of the environment around them. And so I call the reflectors basically like they're the HR department of the universe, because they've got that beautiful ability to really know and tune into like, okay, what is not working here? Like what is, at the detriment of the health of the environment? And so whatever they end up doing, they kind of have this beautiful gift of bringing more balance into the environment, because they can tell what is more fair, equitable and just.
Just quickly on that, I just want to stop right there, because I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Then I'm thinking, holy fuck, that's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
And the conditioning of the planet must be so massive for them.
Well, like I said, all of our open centers have those not selves, right?
Yes.
So there's like a lot of openness there for them to explore. It's a big course load.
What is their not self?
So their not self is disappointment.
Of course.
And their signature is surprise.
Okay.
So because they have like a lot of fluidity in their chart, and I think this is also another misconception with reflectors, is that they're like these, like chameleons, and they're like ever changing. They don't have their own identity, which is not true. All the reflectors I know and have met have very strong identities, very strong sense of self.
Okay, yeah.
But there is that beautiful fluidity there, where they're more open, receptive to change, to explore. And so their aura is actually resistant and sampling. So they actually have this beautiful, protection method, essentially, like with that resistant. They don't need to sample everything and take everything in. They can be the sieve, not the sponge.
Yeah.
But their relationship to their environment is really important. So the health of their environment is really, 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 really important. And so that's going to help those open centers be at their best. But also one of the things for the reflectors is they've got to have the ability to move around different pockets of community. So the way I kind of think of this is like, when you go to a festival and you're like at a stage and you're like, oh my God, it's so fun here. And then like all of a sudden it starts to get boring and you're like, oh my God, let's go to the main stage. And then it's like you move on to a different stage. Like that's kind of how reflectors are here, to have the freedom and flexibility to move around. Because, if they're stuck in one environment or stuck in one way of being for too long, that's where that disappointment creeps in, because they are actually here to kind of choose, like, who do I want to be today? Like almost as if life is like a big dress up box or a big playground. It's like having that spontaneity, that surprise, that ability to have freedom. But they are actually here to be at the center of communities. Like if we were actually all optimized and working in accordance to how we're here to work together, they would really be at the center of communities, where we would be going to them being like, what needs to change, what's not working, how can we improve this? So they've got this beautiful ability to reflect back what is needed to bring the most amount of harmony and balance to the environment.
Wow.
Now their strategy is really interesting. It's to wait a lunar cycle. So they are actually a lunar type, and the rest of us are solar types. And so they have a really, really deep connection to the moon. And so in order for them to gain clarity, waiting a lunar cycle or giving themselves spaciousness is actually how they get their clarity on things. So say, for example, my friend, like if she gets an idea, we develop this system for her where she puts it on the whiteboard. And so she actually then gives herself that month, because what happens is we actually have 64 different gates, and we kind of, the moon moves through them in that lunar cycle. So they get almost like this little, like imagine, if we've got these rocks on the table, if we move all the way around the table, we'll be able to see all angles. And so that's what they need to be able to do, is like let that filter come through and gain clarity as it moves around, because they get a new perspective and a new perspective and new perspective. And so she'll notice, say for example, an idea will get stronger or it'll disappear, and she's like, oh, that wasn't even mine. So that gives her the ability to actually then choose, okay, yes, this has stuck with me for the month.
Wow.
I want to now move on with that.
That's amazing.
So again, we don't really give people a lot of spaciousness in society.
No.
So this gives them the permission to take it.
Wow.
And I get that
We
as a
can
sense
all
in
do a
myself,
bit of
as a
that.
bit of I would like to incubate things sometimes. And I'm resonating with that as that lunar cycle of like, sometimes I just need to let things sit for a while. So I really feel like I know it.
Well, you're a self-projected projector.
Okay.
And so for you to make decisions and kind of have that clarity, your authority, which is our decision-making center, which is another layer of human design, yours is actually about talking out that future direction. Okay. So that might be where that percolation takes place, is because you might have to talk it out or think it through or mull it over to figure out what is right for me, what's my best direction, where is this taking me, what's the bigger vision. So it's like that could take a little bit of time for you in your own process as well.
True, yeah, that makes sense.
And you and I, you and I are both emotional authorities, so we also need time and space to make decisions, because we make decisions off our emotions. And so we've got to wait until the wave that I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it, turns into a ripple, and then we have that clarity where we kind of land in that, okay, yeah, it's starting to feel more like a yep, I'm going to do it, or like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I need to be more like that. I make the decision. Yeah. And then later on go, I probably shouldn't have made that decision, or that was a great decision.
Well, that's probably because you made a decision before your wave had finished. So it's like in those knee-jerk things, because I used to be like, oh damn it, why did I say yes to this? Yes. Or I would be like, oh my god, I have FOMO, I should have said yes. And so now I just give myself, at least 4 to 7 days to make most decisions.
Okay,
but but sometimes, like other bigger decisions, sometimes it's months. Yeah. And it's just like like say for example, like I think I said last time, my lease was coming up, and so I gave myself like 3 months in the lead up to that piece of paper landing in my inbox, because I knew that was a big decision. I didn't want to get to that point where it'd be like, you've got a week to sign this, and I'd be like, like I knew I wouldn't be able to make the decision in that time. So I've been literally riding my wave pretty much all year, being like, what am I going to do? I'm going to do it. I'm going to live here. I don't want to live here. I'm going to live here. Like this big process. But prior to that, I thought I was indecisive. Yeah. And I used to ask everyone, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And like build this like panic up in me, because I'd be getting more pressure and like trying to make the decision fast. Whereas now it's just knowing that I need that space and time has just given me so much more permission to just be like, I'll figure it out. Like it's like I don't even worry about it anymore.
So it just makes a little bit of everything. I'm just thinking about me. I'm a Libran, which brings out astrology, which is a procrastinator. I mean, I've been told,
or you can see both sides. So it's which side is
absolutely. So there's the procrastination, there's the waiting, there's the trust, there's the what was the other word I was thinking of just then too?
Confidence.
Yeah, all of those things, bringing all those things in. But waiting is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, so that's basically we just need to give ourselves a little bit of time until we notice that real like up and down has turned into settled. More of a ripple rather than the chaotic waves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doesn't that feel good actually?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It gives a lot of peace,
Especially now, like with phones, like message, text, answer straight away, or this kind of thing. We've kind of been conditioned to have immediacy around so many things. Yeah. So to give yourself the lunar cycle or riding that wave and to let things kind of filter through and explore.
Let the dust settle.
And there are actually also authorities in human design, which is our decision making process, that are actually have immediacy. There's the sacral. If you're a sacral authority, it's a gut yes, gut no. Okay. And so their mantra is there is clarity in the now. And the splenic authority is that intuitive hit of what you just know. Okay. And so they have immediacy. We need time, right? Yeah. Or like, you may, if you had one conversation, be able to like figure out what your future direction was. You'd be like, bam. But maybe sometimes like, I don't know, I need to have like another conversation. Yeah. So like for you, it's like, it depends. Like there's probably a variance where it might be quick. It might be a little bit longer. Yeah. But I think the thing with that is like, it's interesting because the people who need the time feel like they can't take it. Yeah. And the people who can have the immediacy in their decision don't trust that they could make it that quickly. And so then they give themselves more time, and then they think about it, and then they confuse themselves. So it's like me. We just so we just actually need to honor our own process because like you and I as an emotional authority, we might not get clarity for a couple of weeks, like riding that wave, and some days we might feel really certain and the next day it'll change, but eventually it tapers out, and then we like you get that I'm going to do that, that's what I'm going to do, but it just takes time to get there. And it's like if we don't make the decision until we get there, then we don't feel that same pressure of like, oh my God, did I make the right decision? Oh my God, now I'm stuck on that. It's like not that same level of panic. Whereas like for people that have that immediacy, it's like actually rebuilding that trust with their body and their inner knowing to be like, I don't need to think about it. That is my answer.
And that's the part that I love, that last bit you just said. It's about learning the signs in your body.
Yeah.
And listening to them more and going, okay, this is what, I had last time. That felt good. This feels right. Yes.
Totally.
The pleasure and the activation.
Yeah.
Because, the pleasure and the fulfillment of activating and acting on your...
Because our body had all the answers, hey.
And then I also get, like, when I make my decision, I get peace from that.
Yeah.
So it's like then we get that signature that kind of comes in and goes, yeah, you've made the right decision.
Wow. This is so amazing. Okay.
It's very cool the way you talk about like the splenic body and the sacral body and things like that, how those organs and chakra, I guess.
Yeah, so that's where the chakra system comes into play, is those energy centers in the design. And so all of them have different properties, different strengths, different aspects that, we can either draw from or we're here to learn in. So the coloured in areas in those aspects, in those the shapes in the middle of that chart, they're your definition. So they're the areas where we're fixed, we're consistent, we've got a reliable source of energy and a reliable access to the properties within those.
Yeah.
And then the white open centers are essentially like our course load for this lifetime. It's where we're not fixed, we're receptive, we're fluid, we're taking energy in, we're having an experience of it, we're growing, we're learning, we're evolving. Yeah. And so it's interesting to have a context of those two, because then we can start to see what do we have reliable access to. And quite often those are things we don't even think about. Like when I think about my definition, they're just things that kind of happen, but it's like the openness and the impact on the openness is like where I always like catch myself. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting in that part. There we are in the not self again, or
wow.
That's but both of them, I think a lot of people, especially if, let's say, for example, if they got a lot of openness, they like pull their chart and like, oh my God, is that bad? It's like all of that, like, is something wrong with me? Is there something bad? And there's no good or bad about having openness. Our reflectors, even if they're completely open, there's no good or bad about having definitional openness. Some people are fully defined, they've got no openness. Yeah. So there's like a wide spectrum of what happens when we open up our chart. But again, it's just how can we support ourselves in both? So as an emotional authority or a defined emotional center, even though that's something that happens, I've developed healthier emotional release practices and know what I need at various points in my wave. Even though that's something that consistently happens, I've developed better practices to support that. Beautiful. And then I also recognize when that not self is triggered in those open centers, what I need to do to course correct or to remind myself that actually that's where my greatest source of wisdom is. Yeah. And that's a superpower too, because what I do comes from those white open centers, but how I do what I do comes from the definition.
Wow. Wow.
And to put that into a little bit of context too, because it's sounding like we've got a lot of homework, and but it's a very simple flow once you really embrace this awareness around ourselves. Yeah. And I can remember my mum's business, a spa she had in a hotel, and this young boy came in one time to book his mum in for a massage, and Mum was saying, oh, that's really lovely, booking Mum in for a massage, and he was going, yeah, she's really stressed out, she's been a bit grumpy this morning, we know she needs some time out. And it's kind of like beautiful to, like, that just came into my head when you were talking around the family recognising when someone very important was needing some time out, and probably she was I guess you could say battling on,
and he was feeling that.
And I think that's also the benefit of then understanding other people's designs as well, because not only then can you start to understand yourself, you can understand the people around you. And so say, for example, if like I have, a sacral authority friend and they're trying to make a decision, I'm like, well, what's your gut telling you? Yeah. Like, what's your body telling you? Yeah. Whereas if I had an emotional authority friend, I'd be like, all right, take some time. Yeah. Like, just feel into it. Don't put any pressure on yourself to decide. Like, so it's like I would give different advice
for different things.
For those people. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas, like, I think when we don't have that context of understanding for people, we kind of then impose what's worked for us or what's right for us. And I think we also see that a lot in the personal development industry. Yeah. And this is where I think the personal development industry is shifting rapidly, is because there was so much one size fits all advice and support and methodologies,
we have this conversation a lot.
and then people are like, well, that didn't fucking work for me, and I paid $10K for it, you know. So it's like
it's
this
like a
also
model that seems to one size fits all, and it's just so repetitive.
And so this kind of then gives us this beautiful insight to, even if we do invest in things, like I still invest in programs and mentors, I'm still like, nah, that's not going to work for me. You know, I had, you know, one mentor say, you know, go and ask, you know, on your audience, but I'm like, nope. So it's like immediately I'm like, I know that's not going to work for me. And it's like, you know, there's other things that I resonate with, but I know what to leave that's not right for me. And I think
we are an evolving being too, aren't we? We're shifting, we're changing all the time. We can't, it's a bit like anything, isn't it? We can't keep learning from the same thing over and over and over again. You know, we need to move with our own growth.
Wasn't that what wasn't that Einstein saying? I think you've said that about
you can't change a problem on the same level of consciousness that was created. It's a powerful saying.
And you know, I remember, like, you know, a couple of years ago, you know, when I'd sort of just started to discover human design, I was in the room when one of my friends was watching this masterclass, and the people that were running it said, you know, if you can't make decisive in the moment decisions, you're not going to be successful. And I was like, that's not true. Like, you know, so I was like immediately like manifest the anger, because I was like, well, you know, if I had heard that before knowing about my emotional authority, I would have been like, oh my God, well, I'm so indecisive, how am I going to be successful? You know, so it's like, but me knowing that, I'm like, well, that's actually not true, because there's like 9 different fucking authorities and one of them needs 28 days. So it's like, you know, so it's like,
it's so true what you're saying. It's so beautiful. You know, we just don't get stuck on anything anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we've all been learning over the last few years, is that, hey, the world can change in a heartbeat, and then what are you going to do? You know, it's like,
if all you know is this
one way.
Well, also an interesting little part about the world changing in context to human design. So the creator of human design, Ra Uru-Hu, he basically said that, you know, so basically how we have evolved is, you know, initially we were running off splenic authority. That was kind of our way of relating with the world. So that was very much about instincts and survival. And then we developed the ajna. So after we came from like caveman into sort of, you know, that more sort of like modern society, we developed our ajna, which is basically how we develop thoughts, concepts, opinions, processes, and then we started to industrialize the world. And then we moved into, you developed a solar plexus, and that's our emotional awareness and our emotional intelligence and our consciousness. And so we have then now moved from needing to survive, and that's basically, we're just, you know, trying not to get eaten. Essentially was like our primary form of how we related with the world. Then we've kind of developed a world that we don't actually really need to think too hard about survival anymore, because we've got all these beautiful systems and buildings and structures and all of these things around us. And so now we're actually in the final phases. So everyone on the planet right now is a 9-center energy being, but we actually haven't fully come into solar plexus awareness yet. That's supposed to complete the process in 2027. And so we are in these final phases of this, and that's why, you know, we can feel that acceleration of consciousness on the planet, is because we're all moving into actually now having consciousness and emotional relating at the forefront of how we actually connect with the world around us and each other.
This is so
there's this last little phase, which I feel that, like, oh God, like what's going to happen in the next couple of years, because I do feel like there has been, I think, such a rapid shift in this, you know, this point towards that 2027 point. But that's when we're all going to, you know, be in that new state of awareness. So basically from 2027 onwards, that's going to be our new point of relating with each other.
Can you say that again? It's emotional and
consciousness. So that conscious relating, emotional resonance and relating, which is why I keep encouraging people, especially as, you know, AI starts to creep in as well. I think that real primary relating is going to come into how deeply can people feel you and connect to you as a human, which I think is also, we were talking about beforehand about how our, you know, consumption habits has changed on social media to be more, you know, attuned to like stories and humanness and things you can't replicate with, you know, punching a question into a computer, you know.
And this as well, because our beautiful astrologer that we both love, Pam Gregory, this is one of her powerful messages, literally as we're moving into this there's so much to offer in this new scientific era, but that with the AI energy, the thing that makes us sovereign is our heart.
Yes.
And our humanness. And to stay in that heart space is so very, very important as a way of being our sovereign human being.
Yeah.
And literally what you just said around that emotional consciousness. Oh, that feels amazing. Just literally
this
so
is so bizarre.
And you were a 6-line profile as well, right?
I don't know. What does that mean?
On your I think we spoke about this last time. Were you a 6-line as well?
I just want to talk on that soul plexus thing because this is blowing my mind. Come back to that.
Yeah.
I had a dream. I don't think I've told anyone about this dream.
I had a dream.
When I had COVID, because I was, I had some heavy, I had some heavy dreams when I had COVID. Like,
you were hallucinating,
I was,
you weren't.
But I
were
wasn't.
lucid.
Yeah. But I had a dream that I was getting told not to. Oh, I'm getting emotional even talking about it.
I can feel it. It's beautiful.
That all the answers, don't worry, all the answers are coming, and you'll get them through your solar plexus. How fucking wild is that?
Oh my God, and that's your authority as well. That's your decision-making center.
And I remember telling my husband, and he's like, "Oh, that's so amazing." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what does it mean?" I always want to know, what does it mean? But it was so powerful.
It was so clear, wasn't it?
It was so clear. And you just saying that has I've just gone, no way. Wow, that's, everything. It's all connected. Yeah, that's amazing. So it's so amazing.
The truth is powerful the way.
And I see the solar plexus. I didn't even know what the solar plexus was, but I, I've heard about it. But I remember saying to my husband, woke up when he woke up, I said, "Where's my solar plexus? I know it's here somewhere." And he's like, "Oh, it's here." And I'm like, "I just had a dream, and I could feel it. It was like pulsating and everything."
Wow,
but I'm like,
so cool.
That's so wild. Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah. So this is interesting. This whole.
Well, it's
my authority is the solar plexus, and I'm just looking at Amanda's, which you said before is self-projected. Yeah, so it's wild. I don't. Oh, look, So anyway, what did you just ask me before?
No, the 6-line profile. I think were you 6 last time we looked.
I don't know. Where can I find that?
So it should be next to profile. Down the bottom.
Profile.
Oh no, you're a 3-5.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were a 6. Were you a 6?
No, I'm a 1-3.
Oh, 1-3. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me actually.
So what is this one? What does it mean? What does it mean?
So basically, the profile of the 2 archetypes we came here to bring our purpose to life. But I'm a 6-line, and so the reason that I was going to bring that up because I thought you were a 6-line as well. But basically, that 6-line is called the role model, and one of our things is we're here to model what it's like to live as the fully integrated 9-center energy being.
Yeah,
and so and model that for society. So. I don't know what that means for us after 2027.
Yeah, I feel like even just right now, that means it's, both Joe and I find you just an incredibly concise communicator. Which
absolutely. Affirming. I get the word affirming. It's and I'm not just for us, I believe for many.
Yeah, thank you.
You're a big being.
Yes.
A very big being.
I remember actually when I did my breathwork training and I partnered and buddied with this beautiful woman, Katie, who lives in New Zealand. She's amazing. Empower the Powerful. If you're over there in New Zealand, go check her out. But when we did our breathwork training together, she always used to say every time we sat on the mat together, and I think now I understand my, obviously my manifestor aura, the closed and repelling aura.
Well, I know why you matched her here, because Empower the Powerful. I mean, literally she's sitting next to the opposite of powerful.
But she always used to say to me, she was like, oh, every time we sit on the mat, she's like, whoa. She was like, every time we sit down, it shocks me because she's like, you're so small, but then and then she goes, but your energy is like, whoa.
It's so true. It's so wild. And there are so many incredible people doing amazing things right now. And I actually read a post the other day, which was so beautiful. And it was like, be the woman that will walk into a room full of opportunities and suggest your friends, be that person that wants to empower everyone. I think back to what we talk about at the very beginning, there's not enough people backing each other, and really acknowledging and seeing, I see you,
and I think it's, because we have, very much operated from a competition over collaboration based model in society. And, I think unfortunately, I think especially, you know, as things get, you know, in more of that scarcity frequency, which they have been over the last few years, it's very like that.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, Lord of the Fries.
Survive.
Scared of losing, scared of losing something, or you know, and it's the complete opposite.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
beautiful. Oh my god. So I can't believe I just looked at the time and it's an hour 17.
Yeah.
We've got time.
Is there anything that you haven't covered? So the profile is tell us what the numbers of that and where does that come from?
So there's so many
Right.
things obviously that we could go into. There's like, you know, a million layers with human design. I think the cool thing about human design as well is I think everyone kind of gravitates towards different aspects.
Yes.
But the main two things to really master when you do start your human design experiment is your strategy and your authority, because your strategy is the vehicle you're driving around in, your authority is your GPS. So if you're driving your vehicle correctly and you've got your GPS programmed, it's going to lead to more of that satisfaction, the peace, the success, and the surprise. So that's going to keep us on the straight and narrow, and that also just like helps us align to the things that naturally support our design as well. So they're your two starting points. But the profiles are the archetypes we came here to play to bring our purpose to life. And so I'll just cover your numbers first, but basically there's 6 numbers and there's 12 different profile combinations.
Yeah.
But the 6 different numbers, essentially, you know, there's a house analogy in human design that we represent. So the first line profile is the foundation of the house, and that's called the investigator. So it's that real beautiful insatiable thirst to understand the foundations of things, how things work, why it works. Like it's that real beautiful depth of knowledge and wisdom and understanding about the thing that you're like, oh yeah, it's like going down the rabbit holes, like finding everything out.
You're making me excited.
It's like you have to have that beautiful foundational understanding of readiness before, for you with the third line profile, which is this beautiful experimenter, it's like you build that readiness and that foundation, and then you come out and experiment and try and gather that kind of real world data around it as well. But you need to have that solid foundation without any cracks in it before you do that. So it's like there's like a point of readiness where you're like, oh, okay, I know enough about this. I feel comfortable in my knowledge around this. Now I'm going to come out and, you know, offer sessions, or now I'm going to come out and play with this. So that's kind of how those two work in tandem. And you're a third line as well. So the third line is really this beautiful experiencer and discoverer. In the human design house analogy, it's the spiral staircase. So you're often going to bump into things in life and have these discoveries and find things out first, because you're out on the playing fields of life, like having that real time discovery that you can then share in terms of that experiential wisdom. Like this is what I've discovered as a result of my own experiences, right?
Yeah.
And so then the fifth line profile is this beautiful real leadership archetype. So basically it's called the heretic. Again, this is where I'm like,
mean? What's a heretic?
Yeah, so
is that like a lunatic?
No.
It's a wise man.
So the fifth line profile, it really, you have this beautiful ability to really, you know, especially for you with the 3-5, you've got the ability to convert those discoveries into a solution for the collective. And so the things that you discover in that 3 line, you then are able to basically package it up and be like, and this is the problem I've solved.
Which is what you do in your courses.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so the fifth line is actually the room on the second floor of the house with the curtains drawn. So there's a little bit of a mystery around that, where people are like, you know, they can sense that you can provide a solution for them. And so sometimes what happens is there's a bit of a projection field that happens with that, where people are like, well, you can help me with that. Well, you can do that. Well, you can do that. Well, you can do that. And it's like, then suddenly you're getting asked to solve all of these things that aren't actually even your problem, even what you're interested in. And so there's a real discernment that needs to happen with the fifth line, where you decide, okay, no, these are the problems that I feel satisfied in your case to solve.
Yes.
And it's not that I have to be the rescuer for everybody. This is very much, especially as we enter this kind of like new era, it's also about empowering people to find those solutions for themselves, and you being the conduit for that solution. But you're not the rescuer. Like, people don't need to come to you and be like, help me, fix me all the time. It's like you're giving them the tools to empower them to be that problem solver in their own life in this new phase.
I'm thinking of a situation.
I'm thinking of so many things.
Yeah.
Like, and would this be a reason why I would be, kind of being very vulnerable here, like more reactive to the way people maybe like living their lives, instead of being more detached? Like, does that make sense? Like, because I need to allow.
Well, I think you have an interesting combination. So we've spoken, I think, last time you're here with that completely open head center, right? And so one of the things with that is like trying to answer everybody else's questions.
Yeah.
And so with the fifth line, if people are already coming to you for solutions, or you're seeing all of these different problems in the collective, sometimes that open head will say, we need to solve all of them.
Yes.
And so then it's like, it's like that pressure then kicks in.
Yeah.
So that's where it's then coming back to that, like, well, what are the problems that I would feel satisfied or lit up to solve? What are the ones that feel in alignment with my purpose? Because I can't solve all of them.
Yeah.
Responsibility,
Self-responsibility, and but also allowing people to make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and not having to do or say or, you know, I have this, I think in the negative for me, it's like having a need to feel like I can see the answer for somebody, and they don't really want to know the answer, but I have the need to want to tell them, you know.
It's your answer.
And then I get myself in trouble and say, hang on a minute, just, you know,
Yeah.
There's so many different
We all do that a bit.
Yeah.
Especially as parents
As
and
parents,
mothers and things like that too. There's a little
part of you that just wants to help and support, but it's that's interesting.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh God, and literally, as you're saying, like if we all kind of embraced this from a young age, how much more fun would be?
I can't wait to do my kids. Like I can't wait to, you know, go and do theirs and just see what they are.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like so interesting as well because, you know, sometimes, like say, for example, I was speaking to a lady yesterday and, you know, she was saying that her whole family are generators, but they've got one projector child. So obviously, you know, we were talking about how, you know, sometimes there can be then this kind of, if you don't have that context, there could be that, I guess, drive to make that child fit in with the family rather than recognizing their unique needs and like what could actually support them a little differently. And so like another example of this was I had a woman when we were doing her reading and she had a defined root center, that little square at the bottom. And so basically, you know, she realized that the whole family except for one of the kids had a defined root. And so when they would be like, well, let's go, like we're going to go to the shops now. And then the kid with the undefined root was like, what do I need to prepare? Do I need my water bottle, shoes? Like, what do I? And like,
I reckon
like,
my son, my husband has that.
And then just go into this like meltdown around it. And then they're like, no, just get in the car, don't anything. But it was like putting so much pressure because it's a pressure center.
Wow.
So it's putting so much pressure on him. So now, like after understanding that, she was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him like 15-minute heads up. Like, we're going to go to the shop soon.
Yes.
And then he can like go around, get his shoes, his teddy, his water bottle, all the things he needs to prepare. And then the other kids, and then the other kids don't need.
That's the undefined one.
So
I can remember. I just want to say, like when my kids were born, the nappy bag was the best thing because I would like have drink bottles. I would have everything in that bag. Would go out. I'd be so happy.
So just an example, I've got, see how mine's black and Amanda's is white.
So that's defined.
So yours is defined, yours is undefined.
So mine's undefined.
Yours is defined.
Oh, mine's defined, Amanda's is undefined. Okay. So what does that mean that's what is the base?
So that's connected to our drive, ambition and how we metabolize stress and pressure.
Okay.
So whereas like you might respond really well to like if things dramatically shift or a quick deadline or you're just like all of a sudden you might feel that we should do this. And so for you with an undefined, you might be like, what? Like I had my whole day planned out. Like, okay, that's a bit soon. Like it might feel like a lot of pressure. Like if there's just suddenly this pressure that hits you as a result of like you being like, okay, let's go. And you might be like, can we have a couple of hours to just mull that out? Like, you know, it's like, so that's sort of how that can, So it's like, you know, knowing that we can support each other. It's like, you know, where you actually need healthy pressure to kick in to take action, you actually need spaciousness to take the pressure off. So that's where you can like then meet in the middle and have that compromise. Like say, for example, if you were both doing a launch, you know, you might decide once you've just both decided, you might be like, all right, well, let's go into launch tomorrow. I'm ready to go. And you'll be like, oh, I think we need a week to just like map everything out, make sure it's going to go smoothly. So there's like those different needs as a result of that. And you know,
we definitely, it's a beautiful combination because I'm learning so much from Amanda about slowing down.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
activate me. So
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and
beautiful
that's
combo,
exactly
yeah.
right. Because you've got the undefined emotional center, you've got the defined emotional center. So you've got the defined sacral, you've got the undefined sacral,
Wow.
and then you've got the defined head and ajna, and you've
Yes.
got the undefined.
I was
So
gonna ask
you
that
actually
next,
make
so,
up a whole
yeah.
chart together.
Teamwork.
But that's beautiful because, like you said, you can learn from each other's definition and openness equally
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely been happening.
Yeah,
That's why it
very
works
beautiful.
so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that is a bit of also in that around relationships, around being open to that, isn't it? Like, as opposed to what you were saying before about the one child in the family, like forcing people to, or falling into a relationship with someone and trying to make them something they're not.
Yes.
Because, this is how we do things, or...
Yeah,
Totally.
That's really powerful. I was thinking that too because I've got 2 grandsons that are twins, but their timing, like the time of birth, is different.
Yeah.
It's like 3 minutes or something.
And
Would that make a massive?
Potentially,
Yeah,
like
I'm thinking-
sometimes it could be like a minute, and
Yeah.
like the whole chart changes.
Yeah.
So you could have twins that are completely different designs.
They are completely
They're
different.
kind of-
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or-
beautiful.
Yeah, or like you could potentially get like the same design in terms of what you see on the paper in front of you, but then when it comes to like, because the environment, how we digest food, that changes quite rapidly. So there could be like different, like the same in the chart, but then there's these other things where like they digest food differently, or they require a different learning style, or they have a different environment that nourishes them, but the rest is the same.
Well, this
So
is so
it's like-
funny because we've got one that's quite sensitive,
Yeah.
bit quieter, but he's eating. He can eat anything. This one, and then you've got this one who's really outgoing, cheeky, but in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Very sensitive to food.
Yeah.
It's
reflecting
like
the sensitivity
wild,
in different
yeah.
ways. Yeah.
so. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
the chat so I can see what it is. So Chrissy would love that because
And-
she's writing. She's a very conscious
Yeah.
parent and would love that.
And the beautiful thing is as well, like even with like connection charts with partnerships, whether that be relationships or business partnerships or friendships, the connection charts as well show us the areas we need to compromise, where we might
Wow.
find struggles.
Yeah.
It shows us the areas we have in common, and it shows us the areas where we complement each other, so we bring 50% of the energies and co-create new energies together. And I think that even gives us a lot of, room for understanding each other. So say, for example, like because you guys make up a full, complete chart,
Yeah.
you need less space from each other. So you can be in each other's pockets a
Yeah.
lot.
We are.
And like because you can draw so much of what you need from each other, there's like less room to have to step away from that.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you have, say, for example, if, your, connection chart looks like your chart and you actually had a lot of openness, even when you came together, that might be a relationship that requires a lot of space. And then if you say, for example, knew that going into the relationship, you might be able to then set up some structures that would support that, or be honest with yourself whether you would like to be in a relationship that requires a lot of space, so it's like, there's different things that we can then understand about what the relationship needs. And if we know that it needs room to breathe, and that's fine for both parties,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Unreal.
You can actually give each other that space without it meaning anything.
How
So is
fulfilling
it rude
that?
if you meet a guy out to say, "Can you just
Oh,
write down
I
your
literally-
date of birth
yeah.
time where you were born?"
That's my first question. I need your chart. I need to know what I'm working with.
Yeah. And this is great. Before I
Yeah.
see you again, I need to know your
Date
details.
of birth, yeah.
Yeah.
Time of birth, where you were born,
Literally.
where was the sun rising
Yeah.
and setting.
I don't care if you've got Facebook or anything. I don't want to know about that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stalk you. I just want to get
Yeah.
inside you.
Exactly.
Now, just quickly before we do close this off, because we don't want to.
Well, we
we're
can
so
go on
appreciative
so
of your
much.
time.
You're welcome.
As you said, there's 64 different.
Oh, there's
We'll
so many.
definitely have to get you back. We're gonna get you back. It's just so incredible.
There's
I
too,
love
this
it.
is why you need a reading though, because there's so
Yeah.
many
I
of the
know.
like detailed things that
Yes.
apply to you only, right?
Oh,
but then also
absolutely.
like, yes, we've gone over all these different aspects today, but then it's like, how does it all work together
Yes.
How does it speak?
as a whole
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
In your life,
Yeah.
in context to what actually
No, I'm definitely
transpires for
booking
you.
in for,
Yeah.
for a full reading. I wanted to just ask quickly before we end this, because this is going out today, so people will be listening to this tonight.
It's literally
Hi, guys.
Thursday,
Yeah.
the 21st of June. Incredible. No, is it the
22nd.
22nd.
Yes.
And it's 11:22 on the 22nd.
Oh my God, that number comes up all the time
All
for
the
me
time.
as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you have anything around the energies at play at the moment? I mean, being solstice, and I did. The reason why I asked is because you did an amazing Insta post around the energies, that were around in June specifically. And I know you broke it down into weeks.
Yeah.
So
if you go on my Instagram at kirstenmorrison.co, it's actually the first pinned post at the moment, so you can swipe through. And so I've been doing these, which I'm actually shocked at as a manifestor, the consistency. I've kept this up for 6 months now. We've been doing this. So I've been doing these like energy breakdowns. So this gives you a context of what's the collective human design energy that is activated. And so the one that I kind of share is our conscious sun, and this is our big personality life force expression. So this is a really big driving dominant energy that's activated collectively human design wise. So it's a little bit differently, I guess, to like how we look at like the planets and the astrology aspects. This is different little human design gates that are activated for us as a collective. So say, for example, right now, gate 15 is activated, and gate 15 is the gate of extremes. And this is an energy that's really like wild, it's radically authentic, it's that more feminine essence, it's very like fluid, it's spontaneous. And so I kind of explain those energies, but then I give you like a little thing to try and experiment with that. But the thing with that as well is like, so I don't have gate 15 in my design, but I do have gate 5, which is the opposing energy. So right now in my own experiment, I actually have temporary access to the channel of rhythm and a defined sacral, because it's actually created that connection point for me in my design. So say, for example, if you did have gate 15, it would be like extra amplified.
15.
So this is just immediately you get this thing around windows of opportunity, isn't
totally,
it?
Yeah.
For growth and expansion.
So I know right now I'm like, okay, I've got the channel of rhythm. The channel of rhythm's like a tuning fork. It's going to like, you know, attune me to a different rhythm, look at what I need to let go of, what I need to change. So even like, and I notice intuitively these things happen because lately I've been like, what are my like hobbies? What are my habits? And like I've been like thinking about that even without really tuning into that. But this gives us a kind of context why. So I'm like, this is a great window for me to refine like things that are working, things that are not working, whether that be habits, rituals, whatever. It's like come into a new rhythm for this new season, especially like perfectly obviously with the solstice as well. But then also knowing I have that defined sacral energy, it's like, okay, well, I've got this little boost for a couple of days. And luckily for me, it goes the rest of the month. So I'm like, okay, how can I utilize this temporary energy? And it's interesting because earlier in the year, I had like 4 days of being like a defined heart, 5 days. And I was like, so on fire. I was so committed. I was so driven. I was like, as soon as it disappeared, I was like, fuck, is that what these defined heart people have access to all the time? I'm like, I'd be fucking unstoppable with a defined heart. So
that's funny. When you just said that, I was speaking to a lady who works in the world of plant medicine, and she was saying she tried a particular medicine one time, and she was like, oh, now I get why people try this. They want to be like me all the time. Because she's like just like neurodivergent and all of this. And it was literally what you just said then. It was like sometimes you just think, oh God, this energy
it's like
is wild.
the quantum being part that opens up. There's another part of you that opens up and reaches into something. And just on what you were just sharing too, the first few words that you said there, I was just thinking about the Schumann resonance. I don't know whether you guys have seen it.
That pattern was wild. I'm like, we're in a microwave. Like, it was mental.
It's mental, and that was an anomaly that's never happened before. And it's like just hearing you.
Since 2012, there's been a lot of Schumann resonance things that never have happened before.
A little bizarre, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's not surprising as well, since it's the heartbeat of the earth. It's like it's doing things as well. Exactly. But I had a little joke actually on my story yesterday. I said maybe the Schumann resonance also was doing the gate of extremes because, because like, you know, that is a very, you know, it is that kind of more wild feminine raw essence. But it is also about radical authenticity as well. And so people that have gate 15 activated typically are like, you know, they're not people that might have like a fixed, I do yoga every morning at 6 a.m. They might be like, today I want to go for a walk, and today I want to do this, and today I want to do that. So there's like more variety in that kind of like daily routine. There's more of a feminine approach to things. And then to wrap up the month, we also have the gate of stillness from the 26th to the 1st of July. And that's a really beautiful time for quietness and reflection as well. So really going and doing like those beautiful like breath work, mindfulness, just having that really beautiful reflection point, which I think is also really beautiful as we tip over into the second half of the year as well. Wow. It's just that point to kind of come in and connect inwards and have a look at the bigger picture before we head into that next 6 months.
Yeah, some stillness. What
Yeah.
we've been talking about at the beginning of this podcast. It's like we've been on a bit of a journey, haven't we?
Oh, so much.
Yeah. It almost feels like that. And I think we've got a full moon coming up around that same time.
Yeah.
Which is the 27th.
So it'll be full moon in Cancer, so it'll be like very watery.
Yeah, home,
reflective.
It'd be really nice. Yeah. So for everybody listening, you are going to want to jump on Kirsten's website, which we will put on the end of this podcast. She is incredible. You can also
to download your chart. Free,
and then you can pay. It's like $35 or something, and you can.
Yeah, so basically the process is like you can go onto my website, you can pull the chart that we've been talking about that you've been holding and looking at already for free.
Yes.
And so that will give you an oversight of all of the things that you know, have in your design.
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of description, like a tiny little bit of description next to each, so you can have a look at those.
Just
Which
on that
is
too,
quite
I'm loving how it's just so easy. It's relatable, you know, and it's like, everything you've written, it's like, great.
Yeah. And so then if you want to like dip your toe in just a little bit further and you're just a little bit curious, you want to know more, underneath where you can pull your chart for free, there's like a little $25 offer where you can just jump in and you can watch a video on the energy types, the authority and the profile. So that will give you like a beautiful little like masterclass on all three of those.
Which I did, and it is like a masterclass. There's a lot of content there, but it's very, the way you've broken it up, it's very easy to absorb and very relatable. It's good.
So there's basically like one masterclass on energy type, then there's a worksheet so you can reflect on that. And obviously you don't have to watch the whole masterclass, you can just watch the parts that are relevant to you or your family or whatever you want to know. Same with authority and same with profile. So that's kind of that base level covered. And then if you actually want to dive further and go into a reading, you can, you know, book a reading and we can go over everything with you as well. And so that's on the website as well. I think probably a lot of people will probably just be like, I want to do the reading.
Yes,
absolutely. Just skip the self-paced part. I just want to do the reading. But if you want to dip your toe in and get a little bit more of an understanding, you can do that and then you can book the reading
I think go through the paces because it's actually quite a good build-up to then diving in with you and in the reading, perhaps getting
have a
lot more context out of it, or, you know, be more direct around, you know, the discussions that you have. I think it'd be quite an exciting process.
And the readings are really illuminating, I think, because there is a lot of you know, generalized information on human design out there, and sometimes it can be very, and also the wording and everything, it can be very difficult to kind of go down that rabbit hole of self-exploration in this particular area. It can be a little bit overwhelming and confusing. So I find that the reading kind of just like sets that foundational understanding from which you can then go out and keep playing with as well. And obviously like the reading is really the tip of the iceberg in my world when it comes to human design. I've got like affirmation cards, journals, human design reader training, mentorship, so there's so many things that I do. Even, you know, for my breath work, I actually, you know, pull people's charts if they've got their birth time, because that gives us an indication of like how to tailor that support for your body. Like say, for example, we know you have an undefined root, so there would be like more stress management practices or different things that I would recommend for you as a result of that breathwork experience, like aftercare. So it touches all parts of my world for sure.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it.
It's
love
holistic.
You're amazing.
It's a truly holistic practice.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here, darling.
Thank you for being patient.
We will. We're gonna somehow we're gonna windle you back on again. I don't know how. We'll find a way. Yeah. Thanks, Kirsten.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for listening. And remember, all links to our guest are in the notes. Leave us a comment here or message us on Instagram how our guest today connected with you, or perhaps something you wish to share. A special thank you to the blissful Ksenia Luki for our theme song. Joe and I will be with you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
She teaches me lessons, and boy does she sing. Her voice sways like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting star. She whispers, you were never born, so you will never die.